So the Israeli military is out with its own report on the massacre of 15 paramedics in Gaza, which happened on March 23rd, shortly after the Israel broke its ceasefire with Hamas in Gaza. We can put this element up on the screen. This is from our Dropside News Twitter account, which you goes through kind of the full report. I can put up E3 while we're at it. This is the video footage that later emerged that kind of forced this report out. So what we have from the Israeli military report is effectively a complete whitewashing of the incident. They say that it adds up to accountability because one deputy commander was removed from his post as a result of the findings of this. But for those who didn't follow, a Hamas, not Hamas, they claimed it was Hamas later, a Red Crescent medical vehicle was fired on by Israeli forces. We interviewed one of the only known survivor of that. He said that they're just driving along the road and all of a sudden gunshots ring out and the two people in the front of the vehicle are killed. He was then grabbed, dragged out, beaten ruthlessly for many hours, and then he witnessed what happened next, which you just saw on that video, which was the other vehicles coming, medical vehicles coming to try to figure out what happened to the ones that they had lost contact with. The Israelis then opened fire on all of them, and according to the Red Crescent, based on autopsies of them, there are a lot of headshot wounds and wounds to the torso that indicate that they were executed. We know then they were buried in a mass grave and tried to bury even the vehicles with them. So the Israeli report says that they don't have any evidence that they were shot point blank range. That's one thing but they make that claim without evidence. They criticize the commanders for burying the ambulance with bulldozers under the sand. They say there was no reason to do that. They say burying the bodies in a mass grave was acceptable. Now, finally, at the end, then a UN vehicle approaches the situation, and the Israelis fire on the UN vehicle as well. That, they say, was a breach of protocol. So that is the only thing in everything that I've just laid out, other than the burying of the ambulance by a bulldozer, that the Israelis here say constituted something that they were at fault for, and as a result, the deputy commander relieved from his responsibilities. One thing that hasn't gotten anywhere near enough attention in the Western press's coverage of this is a startling video that Israel's Channel 14 obtained, and we can roll some of this here. So the Golani Brigade, which is known as a fairly reckless brigade in Israel, even among other Israeli forces, is the one that carried out this massacre. This is a deputy command. This is a commander speaking to the Golani Brigade. He says, "Go out, kill a lot of enemy, take a lot of territory, and that's how, up until now, we have returned hostages. Everyone we meet is an enemy. We identify a figure, we open fire, eliminate it, we move on." So that is a commander of the Golani Brigade speaking to Golani Brigade forces. This is before this incident with the paramedics. He says to them, "Everyone we meet is an enemy. Kill them and move on." They then encounter these 15 paramedics. They kill them and they move on. Israel's response is that they are going to remove just one figure from this. Saagar, this was to a global community that is pretty inured to the violence and to the carnage going on. This one broke through because of its kind of horror film-esque nature of it, and because they are targeting people who are just out trying to save people's lives. Israel immediately came out and claimed that they had killed some Hamas fighter. His body was not found. They named a Hamas fighter they said was with them. Body was not there. That was a lie. Then they said, 6 of them were Hamas. Like, you couldn't tell these were ambulances. but you could somehow tell that these dead people
Well, I think it's
are
important,
Hamas members.
Ryan, for you to break down the chain of how this all happened. So if it was not for outlets like Dropsite and independent journalists, I do not believe that this would have come to light. Because the legacy press covered it as is. They were like, Israel says they killed so-and-so. They didn't even, remember you flagged this, the New York Times did not even call up the Red Crescent to ask what actually happened with all of this. And the fact that it was on video. And, you know, literally there's a horrible video of the guy who died recording his last words to his mother. If it wasn't for that, I don't think any of this gets picked up. No investigation even happens.
The first Palestinian reporter I saw break this was Hind Qadri, who I don't think we've had her on the program, but she's a terrific journalist in Gaza who she was one of those who kind of blew up on Instagram and TikTok very, very early on, and she has a huge kind of global following. And immediately on March 23rd, she started hearing what had happened. And because of her and other Palestinian reporters, some of which went on to report for Dropsite News about this, that version was out there. And then the New York Times comes out finally, like Times didn't even want to cover it. And there was an internal fight within the Times about whether they should even do an article on it, and they buried it in one unrelated article. And then when they finally did cover it, they said, you know, who's to say what happened, because the Israelis said that the ambulances were, quote, advancing suspiciously, which is just an absolutely comical addition to our new lexicon. How does an ambulance advance suspiciously? The Israelis claimed that the sirens and the lights of the ambulances were not on. And that might have been the end of the story if one of the assassinated medics had not filmed his own death. So he had his phone going as he's going through this Rafah area, and you all of a sudden, and you see, so he's filming the entire thing. You saw that was his video that you saw at the top of this segment. You see that the lights are on. Lights are obviously on, and all of a sudden, you hear the gunfire erupt, and you hear him say, before he is killed, "Forgive me, mother. Forgive me. All I wanted to do was help people." And you can just sense that the guilt of a son that is not rational, because nobody should feel guilty for being murdered because you're trying to help people. But you know that his mother said to him so many times,
"Be careful.
Be careful. Be careful." And he told her, "Don't worry, Mom. I'm going to be careful. I'll be fine. I need to help other people." And now, in his last moments, he's realizing that this promise that he made to his mother, that he would be fine and that he would come home, he's going to break that promise by being executed at the hands of these Israeli forces that he hears getting closer and closer, and then finally killing him,
and then they buried him,
burying him in a mass grave. Right. And then they forgot to steal his phone and destroy it. And so when he was unearthed a week later, because the Israelis were blocking the UN from going and clearing the scene, they discovered his phone, and fortunately they were able to, I guess, get through his passcode. And then they found this video, and they're like, "Oh, everything Israel said about this was a lie. The sirens were on. There was no Hamas fighter. Nobody's shooting back. You killed these people in cold blood." And you go back and read the Dropsite interview with the only survivor. Like, he watched them bury these people. He watched them bury the vehicles, which is like, what compels you to take a bulldozer to an ambulance and try to bury it under sand, other than trying to like completely cover up this scene? And it also shows the scale of the sense of impunity that is felt by some Israeli forces. Any other force on this planet at this point, if you kill 15 paramedics, you know the world is going to know about this. You're not even, like, you're going to concoct some story about what happened, but you're not going to try to cover it up like that, like by burying the ambulances. But there's so much impunity that they have gotten away with so many things that they thought it was within the realm of possibility that they could get some bulldozers out there and bury these ambulances under the sand with the bodies and move on.
At the same time,
they're correct. One guy is getting removed from his job, and celebrated in their report, in the Israeli report, they celebrate the guy. He had an amazing career. He was wounded, but he shouldn't have fired on they shouldn't have allowed them to fire on this one vehicle.
At the same time, Ryan, we have this story. Let's put it up there on the screen. Can you describe for us what happened here?
Yeah, so Fatma Hossana, who is a 25-year-old photojournalist in Gaza, who had also picked up a lot of international attention for her own kind of charisma and confidence and courage, and also for her photographs. Just absolutely compelling work. She is the focal point of a documentary that was just accepted into Cannes. Is that how you say it?
Yes.
A huge achievement in the world of documentary filmmaking. The day after her film was accepted into Cannes, the film festival, her home is hit with a targeted strike, which kills, I believe at this count, 10 members of her family. Of course, they're saying they're saying that they were aiming for some Hamas fighter or something. Let's say that that's true, just for a second. It means that they're willing to kill 10 innocent people for one Hamas fighter in his home, which is a violation of the laws of war. Like, even if a person was previously a combatant, when they go back to their home, laws of war say you don't attack somebody in their home. Particularly, you don't do it with 9 of their family members surrounding them. The coincidence, to me, is too stark. They have targeted so many people who have risen to global celebrity that, and targeted, we're not talking about they hit a huge apartment building and they happen to be inside the apartment building. Hit her home, like a direct hit on their home. Just like they hit when they killed the poet Rifat Al-Arir. He was in a second floor apartment. They hit the second floor apartment only with a direct hit. Killed him, a bunch of his family members. I forget his name, the Instagram and TikTok star in the northern Gaza who was famous for as a chef, just cooking for people, and because of what he was able to do, he developed this global audience. Killed him directly. Hossein Shabbat, our reporter, killed him directly. There's not accidental killings. These are people who sit around, make a decision to target somebody, send that up the chain, and it is signed off on, and then it is executed.
Yep, and every once in a while, somebody like you, somebody like Trey Yingst at Fox News will try and bring attention to this, but by and large, completely ignored. And
they have to, now that the director said they're changing the ending now, like not the ending, but the end card. The end card said, Fatma is alive in Gaza and continuing her pursuit of photojournalism. They now have had to add a new card to the end of that documentary. And there won't be a dry eye in the House. And when the movie comes out, you'll have pro-Israel forces complaining about it, trying to shut down theaters that will play it, and then asking why the world hates them.
Yeah.
Why is the world so against us?
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show, ad-free, and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.